Yeah. We've all seen the memes and the "I can't hear the bass" jokes. Classic. But here's the thing. When the bass isn't right, there's no punch, no body. The whole mix falls apart. So here's the question. What is the best way to actually make the bass heard and felt? Is it DI? Is it the amp? Is it both? DI sound. Clean and clear. Amp sound. Warm and punchy. Both. Rich and full. So, which one is right? Spoiler alert, neither of them completely.
What?
Because this whole bass amplifying myth has been misleading players and sound engineers for years. In this video, I'm going to debunk that myth and show you what actually works in small to mid-sized venues and how to get that chest-hitting whole mix sound every single time. And I'll also show you exactly how I do it because, well, somebody's gotta settle this argument, right? So sound engineers and bass players, stick around because whether you're a seasoned pro or someone who's starting, you might get some ideas or tricks that you could apply at your next gig. Welcome to Mixing Pixels, where we teach audio through a video. Today we're talking about the bass because, well,
you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
It's funny, but it is true. Music without bass is like pancakes without maple syrup or pizza without cheese. What I'm about to show you will completely change the way you think about the bass. It's a trick that the best sound engineers in the world use in studios, arenas, and massive tours. But the beauty of it is that you and I can apply that same concept in small to mid-sized gigs. You will move from starting wars between sound engineers and bass players, comparing careers, comparing resumes, to actually working together, finding common ground to make every gig sound like a success. But before we do that, let's first identify 5 ways to amplify the bass for any band at any show. 1. DI, direct injection, box. Using a DI box is probably the most common way to amplify the bass. But the most obvious question is, why do I need a stupid box anyway? Can't I just use this cable and connect it directly to the mixer? Short answer, yes, you can do that the same way you can't ride a bike without brakes. But is it smart? Let's break it down. Your bass produces an unbalanced high impedance signal. Your mixer needs to receive a balanced low impedance signal, clean and resistant to noise. You see the problem? That's when the DI box comes in and makes that bridge between the bass and the mixer. It takes your bass's unbalanced high impedance signal and turns it into a balanced low impedance signal that the mixer can receive. Bass, DI box to mixer. And it sounds like this. DI from a bass amp. Remember what I just said about DI boxes? Some amps bring a DI box built into them, and you could do exactly the same with those amps. You connect your bass to the amp, then you come out of the amp's DI box with an XLR cable to the mixer. Bass to amp, amp's DI box to the mixer. And it sounds like this. Careful here. Look up your amp's manual to see if the signal sent will be pre-EQ, a clean, clear signal with no EQs from the amp applied to it, or post-EQ, with the EQs applied to the amp. Some amps bring a button where you can choose if the signal sent will be pre-EQ or post-EQ, and of course some engineers will prefer one or the other. So inform yourself about your gear. 3. miking the bass. This is exactly what the name says. You mic the amp. The same way you would mic a guitar amp. You connect your bass to your amp. You put a mic in front of the amp, specifically the speaker or one of them. A kick or a tom mic will work well for this. Then you connect that mic to the mixer with an XLR cable. And it sounds like this. Four, preamp pedal. A lot of bass players now use preamp pedals in their pedal boards, such as Noble, Ampeg, Sans Amp, and similar. And these pedals already bring a DA box built into them. So you connect your bass to your preamp, then from the preamp you go to the mixer with an XLR cable. Let me give you a few samples of what the bass sounds like with different preamps. With the Ampeg SGT DI. With the Ampeg SCR DI. With the Noble preamp. Pro tip. On many preamp pedals, you have different outputs so that you can connect to a bass amp or to a DI box bypassing the preamp completely. Spoiler alert, I take advantage of all these outputs. 5. Modular. Same as preamp pedals, the modelers have become very popular in the last few years. Not only for guitar players, but for bass players as well. From Behringer to Boss to Line 6 with their Helix modelers, there's a lot of options for bass players out there, and they sound great. Yes, purists, I said it. The only thing about these modelers is that not all of them bring a DI box built into them. For a lot of them, you still need an external DI to amplify the signal. Here's how a bass sounds through the Line 6 Helix modeling the Ampeg SVT Classic. So those are 5 common ways to amplify a bass guitar. They're all great and right. They all have their pros and cons, and every engineer has a favorite one, and most think that everyone else is wrong. So instead of me telling you what to do or which one to use, I will show you what I do. And this is something I learned from the greatest sound engineers in the industry. It's a method called stacking. Here's what I mean. I always use 2 to 3 channels for the bass, depending on the gear that the bass player brings and the available channels. I always have a clean signal through a DI, one that doesn't have anything from the bass player's preamp, amp, or pedal board. I want that signal to be clean and clear. If the bass player has a preamp, I will also get a signal from that with all the EQs and compression that the bass player is using. And sometimes I also mic the bass amp if it is a nice one and if it is distant enough from guitar amps and drums. I apply different things to each channel, that is EQ, compression, and overall volume. I blend the signals until I get the sound that I want. I don't have to have all the signals at 100%. I only need a little bit of each one. And lastly, I put all those channels into a DCA so that I have a master volume for all of them. Now, let me show you what I do with the bass in the context of different genres. Full wedding band playing the classic tunes, you know them. In this case, because of time, I could only connect the bass using the bass player's Noble preamp. There was not an amp on stage. I did some EQ and some compression, and that was it. I had to work quickly. Sometimes you need to deliver it just like this. No time to connect DIs or anything like that. full band in a house of worship. In this case, I used 3 channels for the bass. A line from an Ampeg SER DI preamp that sounded like this. An AKG D112 mic on a 4x12 Ashdown cabinet. And a DI that sounded like this after adding drive from the X32 itself. I did some EQ and compression to each channel, keeping the DI clean as much as possible, other than the drive that I added from the X32. Then I EQ'd a little bit different on the preamp, and I did some massive low-pass filter on the signal from the cabinet, the one with the mic. Because as you can hear, there was a lot of bleed from the drums and from the room. Once I blended the channels as I wanted them, I put them in a DCA to have a bass master volume. Yes, I can hear that very annoying sound like static, like beep. I left it on purpose because in some gigs, this is exactly what you encounter. Weird and annoying noises that can be caused by electricity, bad connections, bad pedals, and yet you still need to deliver. Also, the reason that I use that drive on the DI channel is because that is what will make the bass stand out in the overall mix. You will be surprised at how much of a difference that makes. It might sound a little weird to your ears without the whole band, but it works. And the 3 channels together sound like this. A full band playing covers. In this case, I used a clean DI that sounded like this. And an Ampeg preamp that was using a little bit of a drive that sounded like this. I applied EQ to each channel, compression, and then I put them together in a VCA for a master bass volume. And those 2 together sound like this. Four-piece rock band. In this case, because the band was a 4-piece, and that is drums, bass, guitar, and lead vocals, in this case I used 2 channels for the bass. The line out of the amp with all the EQ and compression that the bass player used on that amp, and it sounded like this. I also used a DI with a clean, clear signal, and then I added once again, like in the worship band, a drive from the X32, from the mixer, to make it stand out. And since it was rock music, I could really drive it home. I put those two in a DCA and voila, it sounded like this. So this is what I do in 4 different scenarios you might find yourself. Which one do you think would work for you in the gigs that you do? Let us know in the comments. Sound engineers, don't get caught up in only one way to amplify the bass guitar. What worked for one genre might not work for another. If you have a spare channel and the time available, why not try getting 2 different signals from the bass next time and stack them like we mentioned? Make sure you let the bass player know that you're using more than one channel, because if they are on in-ears, they might prefer one channel over the other or a blend of both. And for Pete's sake, don't make faces when the bass player tells you they have a preamp and they want to use it. Find the common ground with a good attitude. Now, bass players, also, don't get caught up in the "this is my way and nobody's gonna make me go into a DI." Chances are the sound engineer knows the room and knows what works best in it. Not always the case, but be open about it. If it is a small venue, please don't show up with an 8x10 fridge cabinet. You won't be able to use it properly. Yes, you can bring an amp and use it to feel the bass in your legs and your lower body. Just don't overdo it. Don't try to compete with the PA. Set your levels on preamps, pedal boards, or the amp, and then don't change them later. Remember, if you do that, the sound engineer will turn you down, and you will be ruining the overall mix, the PA mix, the floor monitor mix, the in-ear mix, everything. Just don't. And for all of you who are thinking, what if I can't hear myself? I can guarantee you're not using in-ear monitors, right? Right? Because if you were, this problem could easily be solved quickly and without all the volume mayhem you would create. And that's how I amplify the bass in small to mid-sized venues. Do you know any other ways? Which way do you think works best for you? Let us know in the comments. And while you're writing in the comments, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so that you're always in the loop with all the videos we are creating for you. And remember, great sound is always within your bass amp. No, your reach.